they asked me to do it, and I was anxious to do some live appearances. You know, it'd been a long time since I've been on stage in front of anybody live.
A new DNA analysis of Elvis Presley's hair has left scientists and fans surprised, uncovering secrets that have been hidden for decades. Unusual ancestry markers, missing medical records, and sealed government files suggest that the story we've always known about the king might be completely wrong. Now experts are scrambling to piece together the truth, but the biggest question remains. Could Elvis Presley have been living a hidden life that no one ever suspected? The discovery that started everything. A quiet research lab sat on the top floor of a glass building, where scientists studied history through science. One rainy morning, a special delivery arrived in a small locked metal case, sealed with thick tape and warning labels. The box carried a rare treasure that had been protected for many years, a tiny hair sample believed to belong to one of the most famous music legends ever. Collectors had guarded it for decades, passing it from one careful owner to another, until a private donor finally allowed scientists to study it using modern DNA tools that did not exist in the past. The project leader was a young forensic scientist named Daniel, who had always dreamed of solving mysteries hidden in old objects. He believed science could tell stories that people forgot or never knew. Daniel gathered his small team around a clean white table and opened the metal case with steady hands while cameras recorded every move for the proof and safety. Inside rested a tiny glass tube holding a thin strand of dark hair that looked simple but carried years of history. The team placed the sample into a machine that read genetic codes like pages in a book. Bright lights blinked while numbers moved across a large screen. Everyone expected normal results because this test was meant only to confirm identity and preserve history for future generations. At first, the machine showed nothing strange, and the scientists relaxed while taking notes and sipping coffee. Then, a red alert flashed across the screen, and one scientist leaned forward with wide eyes. A rare genetic marker appeared where no one expected it. Daniel asked for a second scan, thinking it might be an error, but the machine repeated the same result. The room grew quiet as keyboards stopped clicking and every face turned toward the glowing monitor. More data loaded, and the comparison system began matching the DNA with known medical records from decades ago. A heavy silence filled the room as the final line of text appeared and Daniel slowly read the unbelievable message displayed before them. The message that would shake history and push the team into a deeper investigation, because the system clearly stated that this DNA did not match historical medical records, and the truth behind that discovery was only just beginning to unfold. The science behind the revelation. The lab stayed quiet after the shocking message appeared on the screen. Daniel knew they could not rush to wild claims because science needed clear steps and simple proof. He gathered the team and began to explain the process again in calm words, so everyone stayed focused. DNA testing, he said, was like reading a long story written inside the body. Every person carried a special code made from tiny letters that showed family history, health signs, and hidden traits passed from parents to children. The machine they used did not guess or imagine things. It only read the pattern inside the hair root, where living cells still held the full genetic map. He reminded the team that hair without a root could not give strong results, but this sample still had a tiny follicle attached, which meant the code was clear enough for deep testing. The system first cleaned the sample to remove dust and old chemicals. Then it broke open the cells to release the DNA strands. Special tools copied the code many times so it could be studied without damaging the original sample. A large computer compared each line of the code with trusted medical records saved from old hospital visits linked to Elvis Presley. Everyone expected the lines to match like two copies of the same book. Instead, the comparison showed gaps where the letters did not line up. One scientist pointed out a strange ancestry marker that suggested a genetic background no one had linked to the famous singer before. Daniel double-checked the machine settings and ran another scan, while the team watched closely. The new test showed the same marker again, along with several small traits that hinted at family roots that did not match the public story told for years. Some scientists thought the difference might come from damaged DNA because the sample was old, but the quality score on the screen showed the code was still strong and clean. As more results appeared, another discovery made the room grow tense. the analysis flagged signs of a rare genetic disorder that had never been reported in old medical files or public biographies. The condition was not deadly, but it could affect heart rhythm and body stress levels. One scientist whispered that such a disorder would likely appear in hospital records if doctors had known about it, which made the mismatch feel even more serious. Daniel felt a mix of excitement and fear because the data pointed toward a hidden truth, yet science demanded careful proof before any bold claim. The team began to argue in low voices about what the strange results could mean. A senior researcher believed the sample might have been contaminated long ago by another hair during storage, while a younger scientist insisted the clean lab process made that unlikely. Daniel listened to both sides and decided the only way forward was independent testing from another trusted laboratory. They sealed a small portion of the DNA extract and sent it to a partner lab in another city without sharing their own findings, so the second team would work without bias. Days passed slowly, while everyone checked their emails again and again. Some tried to focus on other projects, but the mystery followed them into every conversation. When the message from the second lab finally arrived, Daniel called the team together before opening the file. The report described the same unusual ancestry markers, the same rare disorder signal, and the same failure to match the known hospital records. The independent team even wrote that they repeated the test twice because the results were so unexpected, yet every run showed identical patterns. The room fell silent as the weight of the discovery settled in. Daniel felt his heartbeat rise while he looked at the screen glowing in the dim lab light. If two separate labs saw the same strange truth, then the chance of error was very small. Some scientists leaned back in their chairs, trying to process what this meant for history and for the story people believed for so many years. One researcher finally spoke in a low voice, saying that if the data held up under further review, then it could change how the world understood the man behind the legend. Daniel knew the science was only the beginning because numbers alone could not explain how such a difference existed. The team now needed to search through old records, hidden files, and forgotten stories that might connect the strange DNA clues to real events from the past. As he closed the meeting, he looked at his team and said that their next step was not just more testing, but a deep investigation into history itself. Because if this was true, then history had been wrong for decades, and the search for the hidden truth was about to begin. The Hidden Past Investigation. The lab moved from bright screens to dusty archives as Daniel and his team began to search for answers hidden in the past. They traveled to old record buildings where shelves held boxes filled with yellow papers that had not been touched for years. A quiet clerk rolled out a cart stacked with birth records from the time period they needed and warned them that many files were fragile and incomplete. Daniel wore gloves and slowly opened folder after folder, reading every line with care while another scientist typed notes into a laptop. At first, the birth records seemed normal, showing dates, names, and doctor signatures that matched what history already knew. Then a small detail caught Daniel's eye. One record had a corrected name written over faded ink, as if someone had changed it many years ago. Another file had a page number missing from the middle, leaving a gap where important details should have been. The team checked more folders and found other strange signs like torn edges and missing stamps that made them wonder who had handled these records before and why some information seemed to vanish without clear reason. They moved next to the old hospital where the singer had been born. The building looked quiet and worn, with long halls that echoed with soft footsteps. A storage room held metal cabinets filled with patient files, stacked in no clear order. A hospital worker helped them search for records linked to the birth and early childhood years. When Daniel finally opened the right folder, he saw something that made him pause. The first page listed a normal birth report, but several pages that should have followed were gone, leaving only empty number tabs. Another record showed a different handwriting style for the same doctor's name, which made the team wonder if someone had changed details long ago. While they studied the files, a local historian shared rumors that had passed through the town for years. Some people once whispered that a baby mix-up might have happened during a busy hospital night when two families arrived at the same time. The rumor had never been proven, and most people ignored it as gossip, but the new DNA results made the old story feel less like fantasy. Daniel knew rumors were not proof, yet he wrote every detail down because even small stories could lead to real clues. The team arranged to meet a retired nurse named Martha, who had worked in the hospital decades earlier. She lived in a small house filled with old photos and letters from her nursing days. Martha spoke slowly but clearly as she remembered long shifts in crowded rooms, where doctors rushed between patients. She said there were nights when paperwork piled up faster than staff could handle, and mistakes almost happened. She never claimed a baby swap occurred, yet she admitted that one birth night was especially chaotic and that records were later corrected by someone higher in the system. Her words did not confirm anything, but they added weight to the growing mystery. Back at the archive, Daniel found an old newspaper article buried inside a box of local news clippings. The story mentioned strange family rumors that once spread through the town, but were quickly dismissed by officials who said there was no proof. The article described how some neighbors believed medical details were hidden to protect a rising public figure from unwanted attention. The tone of the report felt cautious, as if the writer wanted to say more, but could not publish everything they knew. Daniel scanned the article and added it to their growing file of evidence. The biggest discovery came when a government records office allowed the team to view a sealed file that had only recently become public. The file contained health reports, travel notes, and letters between doctors and officials discussing private medical concerns that were never shared with fans or reporters. Some pages suggested that certain conditions were kept secret to protect the image of a rising star whose career depended on strong public support. The documents did not give clear answers about identity, but they hinted that medical truths might have been hidden or altered to maintain a perfect public story. As the sun set outside the office windows, Daniel looked at the stack of copied records spread across the table. Missing pages, changed names, old rumors, and hidden health reports formed a puzzle that no one had fully solved. The deeper they searched, the more it felt like someone had tried to shape history rather than simply record it. The team realized they were no longer just studying DNA, but chasing a story that touched family secrets, medical privacy, and the truth behind a legend that the world thought it knew. Daniel closed the last folder and looked at his team with a serious face because the evidence now raised a question too big to ignore. And as they prepared for the next stage of their investigation, one thought stayed heavy in every mind. Was the king living under a secret identity? The unexpected explosion. The secret did not stay hidden for long. One late night, a short report about the strange DNA results appeared online and spread across social media faster than anyone expected. Fans around the world woke up to shocking headlines and confusing posts that questioned everything they thought they knew about Elvis Presley. Some people felt curious and wanted more proof, while others felt angry that anyone would question a legend who meant so much to them. Videos filled the internet with fans sharing tears, disbelief, and heated opinions as the story grew louder each hour. News channels invited music historians and cultural experts to speak on live television. Panels argued about science, history, and respect for a man whose music shaped generations. One historian said, "Science should always be heard," while another warned that rushed claims could damage a legacy without full understanding. Viewers watched as voices grew tense and hosts tried to keep the conversation calm while millions followed the debate. At the same time, some fans refused to believe the reports at all. They posted old concert clips and personal memories to defend the image they loved. Others created wild theories online, saying the tests were fake or part of a hidden plot. Conspiracy videos appeared with dramatic music and strange claims that made the story even more confusing. Elvis tribute performers felt shaken because their work was built on honoring a legend whose story now felt uncertain. Some said they would keep performing, no matter what, while others admitted they felt lost and unsure how to respond. A short statement from family representatives added more mystery instead of answers. The message thanked fans for their support, but said the family needed time to understand the claims before speaking further. With no clear response, people gathered outside Graceland carrying flowers, photos, and handwritten letters. Some prayed quietly, while others argued about truth and respect. Reporters filmed the crowd as emotions mixed between love, fear, and curiosity. As night fell and cameras flashed, Daniel watched the world react to the discovery and realized the story had grown far beyond the lab, because the truth they were chasing now had the power to shake history, and everyone wondered if the truth would destroy a legend or redefine him. The real truth behind the DNA. Back in the lab, Daniel and his team felt the weight of the world watching them. Cameras waited outside the building, and reporters called every hour asking for answers. But the scientists knew the truth could not be rushed, because one wrong claim could damage history forever. They returned to the data again, searching for the one missing piece that could explain why the DNA felt like a puzzle with broken edges. For days they compared files, reread medical notes, and scanned every line of old records, hoping to find something that connected the strange clues. One evening, while checking the sealed government file again, Daniel noticed a small note written in faded ink on the corner of a page. The note mentioned a second birth record connected to the same hospital and the same night. At first it seemed unimportant, but the more he read, the more it felt like a hidden door waiting to be opened. He asked the archive office to search for any record tied to that second file number. Hours later, a clerk returned with a thin folder that looked almost forgotten. Inside were short medical notes about another baby born on the same night with similar details, but very little follow-up information. The team felt a mix of hope and fear as they studied the new file. The dates matched perfectly with the night already under investigation. The hospital staff listed in the notes were the same nurses and doctors mentioned in earlier interviews. A small comment written by a doctor described a moment of confusion during a busy shift when two newborns needed quick care at the same time. The doctor wrote that the staff later corrected the paperwork, but the final correction page was missing from the file. Daniel felt his heart race because this small detail could explain years of confusion. They decided to search for family DNA samples connected to the second birth record. After weeks of careful contact, a distant relative agreed to provide a test without knowing the full reason behind the request. The lab received the new sample and ran the comparison test with quiet focus. The computer read both codes slowly and matched them line by line. When the result appeared, the team stared at the screen in silence. The new family DNA matched perfectly with the strange ancestry markers and the rare genetic disorder that had confused them from the start. Daniel felt a wave of emotion rush through the room. Some scientists leaned back in shock, while others covered their mouths, trying to process what the data showed. It did not mean anyone had lied on purpose or tried to trick the world, but it suggested that a mistake made long ago during a chaotic hospital night might have shaped the story that history believed for decades. The hidden twin theory suddenly felt real and human rather than strange and impossible. Two babies born at the same time, two sets of medical notes, and one moment of confusion that no one noticed until science looked back many years later. The team gathered around a table to talk through the meaning of the discovery. One scientist said the results did not erase the life and achievements of the legend people loved. Another said the truth showed how fragile records could be when hospitals face stress and limited tools. Daniel reminded everyone that science was not about destroying heroes, but about understanding real human stories with honesty and care. He looked at the files again and felt deep respect for the people involved, because they had lived normal lives without knowing how a small mistake could grow into a giant mystery. As news slowly reached historians and experts, the public story began to shift. Writers started to discuss the idea that the famous singer might have shared a birth night with a twin, whose records were later confused. Medical experts explained how hidden genetic illness signs could be misunderstood when files were mixed or lost. Fans began to see the legend in a new light, not as a perfect symbol, but as a real human being connected to a complicated past. Some people felt sadness, while others felt closer to the truth, because it showed that even the biggest stars were shaped by simple human events. Daniel spent long nights reviewing every detail again, because the team needed one final piece of proof before sharing anything with the world. They compared hospital stamps, nurse signatures, and family timelines until every part of the story fit together like a puzzle, finally complete. The hidden twin record explained the ancestry markers that never match public records. The rare genetic disorder found in the DNA appeared in the second family sample, but not in the old hospital files linked to the public identity. The missing pages now made sense because corrections were likely made but never fully preserved. Even with strong evidence, the team felt the emotional weight of what they had discovered. Some scientists worried about how fans would react, while others hoped the truth would help people understand history with deeper compassion. Daniel felt both pride and sadness because solving a mystery did not always bring joy. Sometimes it simply brought understanding. He remembered the fans standing outside with flowers and letters and knew the final explanation had to be shared with care and respect. Before releasing the full report, the team prepared a summary that explained the science in simple language. They described how a hospital mix-up could happen during a stressful night and how records could be corrected without clear documentation. They showed how modern DNA testing helped connect hidden family lines and revealed medical truths that were never known before. The story was not about blame or scandal, but about human error and the way history can change when new tools uncover forgotten details. As Daniel closed the final draft, he looked at the glowing screen and felt the moment growing closer when the world would finally hear the truth. The discovery did not erase the music, the memories, or the impact that shaped millions of lives. Instead, it showed that behind every legend stood a real person shaped by chance, family, and moments beyond their control. The lab lights dimmed as the team prepared for a press conference that could change how history was told forever. Yet one final question remained unanswered, because even though the twin record and family DNA explained the strange results, there was still one hidden detail locked inside a sealed medical report that no one had fully opened. And as Daniel reached for the last file, he felt a deep breath fill his chest, knowing that the final explanation could change everything once more. And the world was only one step away from learning the complete truth, the file that was never meant to be opened. Daniel stood alone in the quiet records room, staring at a gray metal cabinet that held the last sealed file connected to the DNA mystery. The folder inside carried thick red warning labels that read, "Restricted access and authorized personnel only." A senior officer handed him a special key card and reminded him that the file had stayed closed for decades because the information inside was considered too sensitive for public view. Daniel felt his hands grow heavy as he unlocked the cabinet and slowly pulled out a worn envelope sealed with an old government stamp. Back in the lab, the team gathered around a long table while cameras recorded every step for proof. The envelope felt thicker than the others, and the paper inside looked older and more fragile. Daniel carefully opened it and spread the pages across the table. The first sheet listed private medical notes that were never included in official hospital records. Some details showed tests that were ordered but never reported to family members or even to certain doctors who worked at the hospital. The scientists exchanged worried looks because it meant information had been hidden from people who were supposed to know the full truth. As they continued reading, they found letters between hospital leaders and unknown officials who gave strict instructions about how certain records should be stored and who was allowed to see them. One letter mentioned direct orders from higher authorities who wanted to control how the story of the birth night was recorded. Another note warned that revealing the full truth could cause public confusion and damage the future of someone who would later become very important. Daniel felt a cold silence fill the room as he realized that the missing pages and strange edits were not simple accidents. The deeper they read, the more it became clear that some truths were removed on purpose. A section described a sudden review of all medical files connected to that night, and a request to rewrite certain details before sending them to public archives. One scientist whispered that this went far beyond a hospital mistake, because it suggested someone had decided which parts of history should be remembered, and which parts should disappear. The team felt a mix of shock and sadness, because the story they had chased for weeks was no longer just about DNA or confusion, but about choices made by powerful people long ago. Daniel sat quietly for a moment, staring at the final page that carried a signature from an unknown official and a short note that read, "Record adjustments approved for long-term protection." He knew this meant the hidden truth had been buried with care and intention. The room felt heavy as everyone realized that their investigation had uncovered more than science could explain alone. As Daniel closed the folder and looked at his team, he spoke in a low voice, saying that the mystery was bigger than they first believed, and that the next step would reveal why these secrets were locked away for so long, because now they understood one painful reality, that some secrets were hidden on purpose. What happens when the world learns the truth? The lab felt heavier than ever as Daniel and his team gathered around the long table to decide what to do next. The sealed file lay open beside stacks of DNA reports and old hospital records that told a story no one expected to find. Some scientists believed the truth had to be shared because history deserved honesty, while others feared the world was not ready for a revelation that could shake millions of loyal fans. One researcher said people had built memories and identities around a legend they loved, and changing that story could cause confusion and pain across generations. Daniel listened carefully to every voice because he knew the decision would affect more than science. He thought about the fans who stood outside with flowers and tears, and about the family members who might struggle with new questions about their past. He also thought about the duty of researchers to tell the truth no matter how uncomfortable it felt. The team agreed to call outside experts, including historians, legal advisors, and medical professionals who could help weigh the impact of releasing the full report. Each expert warned that once the information became public, it would spread across the world within hours and could never be taken back or corrected if misunderstood. Meanwhile, news stations prepared for a massive announcement without knowing the full details. Cameras lined up outside the research building, while reporters practiced headlines, and producers arranged live panels to discuss the mystery. Social media buzzed with guesses and rumors as fans argued about whether the story should be revealed or kept private out of respect. Tribute performers waited anxiously for updates because their careers depended on how the public reacted to the truth. Some hoped the announcement would bring clarity, while others feared it might create deeper confusion. Inside the lab, a large digital clock counted down the hours until the scheduled press conference. Daniel reviewed the final presentation again, making sure the science was explained in simple words that anyone could understand. He reminded the team that their goal was not to destroy a legend, but to present facts with respect and care about him.